Welcome back to Barley and Hops. We're going to talk to Mark from Silver Fox Distillery up in Canada. He runs a channel called Still in Canada, and he started out just like all of us as home distiller. Now he's running his own distillery. Wait till you see this. Well, welcome everybody. This is George from Barley and Hops, and I have a treat for you today because we get an opportunity to not only learn and go further in this craft, we get to actually talk to someone who knows a lot about what they're talking about. Mark, it is great to see you today. How's it going up there in Canada?
Oh, it's wonderful up here. We're no longer a distillery. We're now a sanitizer manufacturer.
Yeah, I understand that. You know, a lot of our distilleries, even here as well. I mean, and again, we're in this all together. And I mean, it's just, I mean, God love you, and our hearts go out to you for what you guys are doing. But you know, you're shifting from our average spirit runs, and now you're making sanitizer to support the community. So thanks a lot for what you guys do.
Yeah. It's we shifted fairly quickly. We've been open now for just over 5 weeks, and our second week in, we started getting hint that there wasn't enough supply of sanitizer in what some of the other local distilleries were doing. So we jumped on board, and we switched everything right over to do the sanitizer. Now it's not a big switch, and we just do things a little differently.
And we'll explain
and before
that.
I run vodka, I definitely have to clean those towers out.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, but and throughout the program here, we'll kind of explain a little bit more of that, a little bit more in depth for our home distillers, because what I want to try to do, if we can, is kind of keep this at a home distiller level, because and I think what I think we're going to glean from you, and I hope anyway. Here's my hypothesis: is that when you start discussing 1,000 liter, 11,000 liter, and you've got these huge things going on that, believe it or not, we're just going to pare it down and say, well, we're dealing with 20 liters, 30 liters. I mean, it's the same thing. It's just volumes are different. Am I correct?
It's no different. I mean, your recipes that you may have run on that 20 gallon keg still, or 15-gallon keg still, that recipe may taste a little bit different, but it's going to be really close. And the difference is that you probably end up with like this stuff here is just a higher quality instrument to play.
Right.
But a home keg is that's where I learned.
Yeah.
That's in fact we actually did an episode on Still in Canada of the amazing keg. So its versatility, what it can do from pot still, double thumper, column still, rectifying column, the whole bit. So we did that, and when we decided to go down this channel and to learn the craft, we started with a keg still, and we deliberately did every iteration of it that we could to learn what we wanted to do.
See, and it's not, and sharing that with others is not that difficult. I know from my experience, and sometimes it's hard to explain that. And oh, by the way, I'm going to go out on a limb here. I need to recommend everybody, if you get an opportunity, you need to subscribe to Still in Canada. He runs Silver Fox Distillery. I mean, look, here's his logo. Trust me, it's on the screen somewhere. And I'm going to put his link. I'm going to put his link in the video below the video so that you can get to it, because this is tried and true. Someone who started out exactly where all of us are, and you can look over his shoulder and see what it is morphed itself into. So, hey, give us a little bit of background about where you came from and how you got into what you're doing now, Mark.
Well, you know what? I'm from the East Coast of Canada, Cape Breton Island, and it is the Maritimes of Canada, and it's very much, I would say, equal in its lifestyle to Kentucky, Tennessee, and that area. Very similar lifestyles, and so. As a youngster, and this is going back pre-16 of age, so, and there's limitations going on. There were things I did out in the backwoods that started me on this journey. So, there's only two things to do. One was in the backwoods, and the other one was to bring the girls to the backwoods.
Oh, okay. Another story in itself for another day.
Yeah, not for online.
Yeah. So here we are now. I mean, because we have this great consortium of folks that want to participate and share. We've got Stillet from down there in New Zealand. Jesse, wonderful. We've got Bearded and Board, who's not too far down the road from me, as a matter of fact. Then we got you, and we got myself. And one day I hope to get all four of us on one live chat, which I think would be really beneficial because each one of us have something to share. You see, and I look back on your videos that I've watched, and I've watched almost all of them. So I mean, that's a testament to you've got some good stuff out there that I want to point people to because I'm okay. Put it like this: if you want to know about tasting and mixing and stuff, you go to Jesse. He's got it.
Yeah, I can't argue. Not going to argue with that.
I'm not going to
Nope.
argue with that. Yeah. If you go to Bearded and Board, you're going to look for processes with grains and things. If you come to me, I'm going to talk about the scientific aspects and approaches and some, do's and do nots, but, we're going to explain exactly why and how it works. In your particular case, although you have all of that wrapped up in a lot of your videos, you are a mechanical expert. You're the engineer who built your stills, design stills.
Yeah.
So from now on, when someone calls me and wants to know how big should this column be, I'm going to send them to you because you are the expert in that. So this is
Yeah,
great.
no, and I don't mind. It's much like you, George. We're in this to help everyone out and to not hold their hand. We do expect all of you to take your time to study, learn, everything else. But we're here to give you guidance. And you know what? And I will say this, and I say this a lot. Whatever you read, whatever you hear from any of us, no matter how much of an expert you think we are, do your homework.
Check.
Do your research. See if what we believe in, what works for us, will work for you.
Absolutely.
There's many ways to do the same thing. Do your homework, and you'll be a much happier fellow.
Yeah, I say that all the time. I'm like, don't take. I mean, take my word for it. I mean, but gone are the days when I used to sit around and watch the news and go, oh, if that's what he says, I guess that's it. No, I check everything now, and I will say, if I say something, check me. We need to know what's going on. So.
Sure. You know what? And I say it all the time. I mean, we're called Silver Fox Distillery. The only reason why we're called Silver Fox is my wife wouldn't let me put old as shit on the door.
No.
So,
yeah.
Even though we are a little, you and I are both a little beyond what a lot of our viewers are, well, not all, but a lot of them, we still don't stop learning. We are learning every day of this.
That's
and I will never know it all. The best I can hope for is when I'm gone, is then they can say he knew everything. Until that point, I'm always learning.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, and while you get a chance, everyone, please subscribe, share us with your friends, comment below, both here and on the Still in Canada channel. Make sure you comment below because that is exactly, I think, what Mark you're hitting on is that's where we learn from. We pick up all of our tidbits of information from the community.
And you know what? It's funny. I love the comments. I get to them as soon as I can. Once again, with the sanitizer, everything's going nuts, and I'm even behind on a couple of my videos I have to get out.
Yeah.
But we read the comments, and I know you do as well. I know you go through all of them. And it's funny because as we read them and we garner the questions that are being asked, that creates the thought template for what we need to put out next.
Absolutely.
We let you folks decide and tell us what you need to know, and we do our best to help you.
Yep. So that's why I say just help. Hey, yeah, exactly. For all you viewers, help guide us in the right direction so that we can post exactly what it is you're looking for. We can do the best we possibly can, but just to sit here and try to think it up, it's not that easy. And Mark will tell you as well, there's a lot of effort that goes into publishing a video when you get down to the editing portion and, all those other things you got to do to get it right and then, post it. And oh, by the way, Mark, you know this as well as I do. Man, these things are free. It's
What's
free.
that?
The
Oh, yeah,
the
yeah.
videos are free, so just subscribe. Yeah, just
Sometimes
subscribe.
you get what you pay for, but we try to give you more value than what you
Yeah.
pay for.
Yeah. Hey, I want to bring everybody's attention to those things you got across over your right and left shoulder. You've got these great big huge column stills back there that have bubble plates in them.
Yeah.
Because and curious minds would like to know. Can you explain a bubble plate for us?
Okay, so a plate is a rectifying surface. So what it does is it creates a surface area that allows the vapors to come through, coalesce to some degree. So they're actually cycling it on every plate, every bubble chamber. They're moving in this circle and they're coming out. And once you load the plate properly, you've created another liquid surface. So this becomes another mini still. So each one of these plates is another still. And keep that in your mind as you're doing it. You flood the plates, not to the point where they're drowning it or it's 3/4 of the way up the sight glass, but you're controlling the amount of liquid on there. In a smaller still, it's a bit harder because if you look, let's see, if you look on my copper still here, you'll see I have valves here.
Yeah.
So those valves allow me to control just how much is loaded on that plate. So I can keep all those plates at a certain level, and they're all doing a distillation process.
Yeah.
The lighter fluid, the lighter alcohols are rising, condensing, heavier ones are falling back down. So we're redistilling in every plate.
Right.
And and here's where I have an issue. So, and I'm sorry, George, even you say it, and it drives me crazy. You're saying each plate strips out flavor. They don't.
Right.
They can't strip out flavor. They can strip out intensity. It's going to taste the same. If I run it through this 5-plate tower, or if I run it through a pot still right to the condenser, it's going to taste the same, but the intensity of that flavor is different.
Okay.
So this where it strips out the flavor. No, it just makes it drier. It still tastes the same.
Gotcha.
So that's the one that drives me crazy.
Yeah. I also notice, and if you, in a comparison between a pot still and a reflux, where you've got bubble plates, you're stripping more than you are from a pot still. Having said that, oh, by the way, I got this black tape on my thumb for everybody, because somebody's going to wind up asking. Yes, I cut my thumb seriously yesterday. I put a Band-Aid and electrical tape to hold it there.
I thought you ran out of string for the reminder.
Yeah, I don't want that to be too distracting. But I noticed that, see, like you said, Mark, there's many ways to accomplish the same thing. And I always say that about technique versus process. Don't violate the process, find your own technique. Now, in your column where you have your bubble plates, I noticed that you can load them individually. In a lot of home distillers, we don't have that flexibility.
You don't have that option.
Right,
No.
and we're going to load ours from the deflagrator at the top, and those plates are going to start to load, but they'll load sequentially. Although we can't control the load on them like you can. So I guess we can't be as finite in our adjustments as you're able to do.
Yes, you can.
Please tell me how.
For this one. Yes, you can. It just takes longer. It's going to take more runs.
Right.
So essentially, when you build your plate, and I know, George, you had seen the video I did on how to build a bubble plate.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping somewhere's in here you can put a link to that.
I sure will.
But
right there.
in doing that, you can, as you run it, after you build it, as you run it, one plate is going to flood more than the other, and that's going to be the one that's controlling you. There's things you can do. Take that plate apart, and when you're building the plates, at least the way I do it, I use plasma tips because they're already preformed, already that. So they're different sizes. So you can actually resize either the downrigger or the ups so that you can equalize that plate out. So in a small column still, for a small, like a keg still, your main problem, your plate loading, is going to be how each plate is acting individually. So if you can, over time, if it's flooding too much, you put in a bigger plasma tip cutter. If it's going dry and it's not loading, then cut off or seal up one of the downriggers.
Yeah, the downrigger. Yeah. Okay.
And that will equalize a plate, that type of a still. So you can equalize it because when they're running, once you have each plate doing what the other plates are doing, it's going to, once again, it does load sequentially, it goes top down, but it's going to load and stay at the level on each one. So it equalizes itself once the temperature is equalized. And you're controlling that between heat of the still and the flag.
Right.
So now a lot of people will say
that's that happy
just
balance, yeah.
That it is a game. So what you do is on the smaller still, even on this big thing behind me here, what you do is you bring it up slowly. Now let's go with a 1,300 liter run in this setup. Takes me between 8 to 10 hours to run it.
Okay.
If I'm doing a really nice dry whiskey. So if I'm doing that style, or even my moonshine, I'm still running it through the copper tower here.
Right.
Boy, I hate doing this, but
so
it's going through that one.
Yeah.
Everything I run goes through that one regardless. The only time I go into pop mode is if I'm doing a rum. So something I want heavy and oily, I'm looking for that type of a desired flavor. Everything else I prefer a little bit drier, so I am going to clean it up by using my column. And so I bring up the still slowly, and I'm watching how it's loading. And now, once again, I'm going to go back to the keg still because it's the same process. So I bring it up. As soon as I see those plates, and I'm running my deflag, as soon as I see those plates starting to load up, okay, now I'll control my deflag. If I don't get a nice even through, I add a little more heat to the still, and it starts to load those plates a little bit better. So, and then once you get it equalized and you've gotten rid of your 4 shots and you're down on your heads, it's going to be normalized. And we say this a lot, that once that column is normalized, it runs for a good long time. It doesn't like to change too much.
Right.
So it's just a matter of you control the flag and you control the still. It's a balancing act, yes, but you can see, and with time, you'll be able to predict when to add what.
Great. Yeah, great. You know, I was going to ask you for some tips. I'm not going to do that now. You just covered all that.
Yeah, no, it took me forever learning how to do.
That's probably one of the best descriptions or explanations that I've heard in a long time. That I hope everyone else gets to benefit from too, because it's so pragmatic and it's direct. You know, it's something that you've done and you understand. Yeah.
Yeah, it's time consuming. Guys, you know what? If you run it the first time after building it and you're going, oh, this is crap, this isn't working, have patience. Watch what it's doing.
Right.
Take a video of it and watch your video, study it, because you will see which plate is acting which way. Yep. Once you get them so that they all act the same, it doesn't matter what you run. If you're running a moonshine, or you're running a whiskey, or even a vodka, and you're doing that tower, once it's normalized, is always going to run the same.
Excellent, outstanding. Hey, if I could, let's kind of switch a topic here real briefly, because this is another one that we're challenged with a lot when it comes to home distillation, and it's just people that want to get into the hobby. We understand. You know, the only way to make this a whole lot better is to legalize it, and it's illegal just about everywhere. But I say that the caveat is, I think based on recent events, I think our lawmakers are starting to see the value of home distillers having the capability to chip in where we can. And again, thanks to our distillers for what they do. Now, fermentation and recipes. And I don't like to talk about recipes specific, but what I want to ask you about, if you could share with us, is simplicity versus complexity.
Okay, so it also comes down to what your interpretation of certain things are. So let's go with, I'm not a big fan of Sugar Shine. Okay, that's just not, wow, there's an arm sticking in over here.
That's okay. That's okay.
The wife's over here. So I just saw an arm peek in from the side there.
Okay.
So let's talk sugar washes. I'm not a big fan of sugar washes.
Okay.
It's just not my cup of tea.
Gotcha.
You know, now having said that, I did a bird watchers one time, and I had a use for it, but as soon as I ran it off, and once again, I'm using my keg still.
Mhm.
As soon as I ran it off, and this is when I think it was back when I was trying to equalize once again the tower and a few other things, and I was also doing a comparison of the tower, plated tower. So I ended up with 6 plates. I also ended up with a huge stack tower and loaded it with copper mesh. So I was getting those comparisons to see which I wanted to do, because what we have behind us, I designed from my keg still. So everything I learned on my keg still is what I put into this. So the sugar wash itself, yeah, I'm not a big fan. However, that Bird Watchers, when it came off, I'm going, wow, this is horrible. This, I do not like this. So I put it in storage and I forgot about it. And we opened it up. I think 8 months later, we opened it up, and I was going to just, dispose of it. I thought, okay, just got to give it a try. And we tried it and going, wow, I could think of 6 liqueurs instantly that do to this.
Oh, wow.
Letting it sit, and I don't know how long it took. It was a long period before I got to it. Letting it sit, homogenized it enough that it became a nice base spirit to do liqueurs out of.
Oh,
and I thought, wow, it's worthwhile. So it does have some merit.
Yeah.
But for me, now we do a lot of moonshine here. So now moonshine is many different meanings to many different people, and
True.
everybody is pretty strong on their meaning. And I'm not going to sit here and fight people with it. It's no longer an illegal act. That's what it was at one time. It is an actual brand name for a certain type of spirit.
Right.
That's in the regulations. So we can call something moonshine. Now, you know what? What is your definition of it? Mine is any sugar wash with a grain additive.
Okay.
So that's moonshine to me. Now, personally, I cannot, in any good sense of my Scottish side, ever put a grain in there and not convert it. Why would I? I want those starches converted. So I'm going to use a liquid amylase with it. I'm going to take that corn, and I'm using a flake corn because that's already steam processed. That reduces my cook time. However, when I was using, what was it, Sebstar alpha amylase, something like that. Anyways, that one there, and it's readily available in the States. It's a little harder in Canada. I tried it, and yeah, you bring the grains up to 156. I don't have to gelatinize the corn,
Right.
and it's a very simple process. So yeah, I'm adding a little complexity to get those starches out of that corn,
But
which
it's
enhances the flavor.
Mark, it's necessary, and we talk about that all the time about converting starches to fermentable sugars. And one of the biggest challenges that I have with some viewers, and I mean, it's not as much of a challenge as it is maybe just a misunderstanding, but I often say, hey, some of your biggest distilleries, some of your most successful distilleries have normally, in general, 3 basic ingredients. Corn, rye, barley.
Yeah.
And for the life of me, I don't understand. I've got guys that'll tell me, say, well, I put corn, rye, barley, wheat, honey, molasses, some Karo syrup in it. I put some table sugar. I mean, and they list off all these things, and I'm trying to say, listen, if you're adding a level of complexity to this thing that you're not going to be happy with it. You've got understand, find what you want to make and make that. Instead of the.
You know what? I had the exact same conversation not long ago. The only one you missed was triticale. That was in there too.
There you go. Yeah, there you go.
No, there's no need, and nor is there an added benefit of adding that many different flavors. It's not going to. The minute details will seldom ever come through like that.
Right.
Now, if you're playing after you've made the spirit, then yes, there are lots of things you can do, and the world is your oyster with that.
Yeah.
But your base spirit, what you're looking for, is your body.
Yeah.
So the body of your spirit, and that can easily be done with a single grain. So now. Having said all that, there's always this is the way we do it. So our moonshine is a blend of corn, oats, and wheat, and it it does have the complexity that you do see in other whiskeys and that. And it's in a moonshine because it's also added sugar to it. So, but I convert all those grains. And by pulling those starches out, I give it a body and a flavor that you won't get just with a sugar wash with added corn.
Mark, that's
and there's nothing wrong with that. That is a very standard recipe for a Kentucky or a Tennessee moonshine. It's a sugar wash, throw the corn in there, don't worry about converting it. It's only for a little flavoring, and then run it. And there's nothing wrong with that. It is a decent flavor.
Well, you know what, Mark? You and I speak the same story. We've been, yeah. I mean, and you know, it's so refreshing to have a master distiller who started out where we are. And yeah, I mean, you've got the experience. You know, the proof is in the pudding. And again, this is an example and a demonstration to all those out there watching. Is that you may have a 15 or a 10-gallon still, but that doesn't mean that you're restricted. I mean, you can move up in the world or move out in the world and do what Mark's done. Yeah.
Hold on. There's how I started.
There we go. There's the start all still. It looks familiar. Mark.
That was my beginning. That's my little humble, how to learn how to do everything. From that that was born.
Yep. Okay, hey, Mark, what I want to do is I want to kind of bring this to a close. We've gone on for quite a while, and I think we've got a lot of information here. Well, I want to thank you for your time, and I want to see if you would commit to doing more videos in the future as we move down this road together, along with all of our other partners out there and all of our viewers.
Hey, you know what, George? I love you. You know what? The wife and I, we have watched you religiously since you started.
Oh man!
And
one big happy family.
You've had, as well as Jesse, you've had as much a hand in everything behind me as anyone else has. So although you're sitting there and you're not sure, are people benefiting from what I'm doing, or are they just enjoying themselves? Are they watching me just for fun? No, you know what? We are learning from you. You have taught us, and you're a master at it. You've been doing it for years.
Mark,
you've gotten through to us and explained things to the point where we could go ahead with this with confidence.
Mark, I appreciate all the accolades. Really, truly, you warm my heart. But please don't send me a bill for what I've caused. All right, hey, let's close this out. And I always end every video kind of like the same way. It's always my way of just telling everybody that we are all in this together and we're on your side. Happy Distilling.
And at this point, we're all in the same boat.
Happy Distilling.
Happy sanitizing.
There you go.